And now to talk about our module of the week is a guest, because Martin, I think, is at Aqua Engage. So let's turn it over to Jacob Rockowitz, maintainer of the web form and schema.org blueprints modules. Jake, what do you have for us this week?
I would like to talk about the Admin Dialogs module. I'm really excited. This is one of the modules I installed and was super excited when I saw that it just worked as I expected. And the pitch for the module is Admin Dialogs module basically takes your links and opens links to link that go to simple forms and modal dialogs. For example, when you need to delete something, the delete confirmation just says, "Are you sure you want to delete this?" And it has a delete button. And instead of making someone go to a whole new page, they can open that modal dialog and click delete. And the module provides a UI that you can adjust any link on your site in any context to open in a modal dialog. And out of the box, it ships with default settings for almost any common task. The most common one is deleting. The other one, and what's great is as you're using Drupal, you just see it's making things a little better. Another example is when you're adding menu links, it opens the menu links in a dialog, which it makes a lot of sense. You just need to enter a title URL and maybe some minor settings. I really like the module. The quick background of the module is that it was just created in May 2003. It was created by Minor, who works for Chapter 3. It is in a 1.0 release. It has a 1.0.17 release from last July. It has only 6 issues. Only 150 sites are using it. There's no test coverage, but I'm not concerned about that because the module is so simple in what it does that it's usually is easy to manually test because basically you're going to links and seeing that they open in a modal dialog. There's one experimental feature that I also want to call out where it adds a loading spinner. When you click submit on a form, it replaces the text, the submit button, with a loading spinner. It's a very nice feature for forms that might take a second to return back a response. And it's just experimental, so you have to turn that on. I think that's enough to discuss. What else would you guys like to talk about this module?
Yeah, this sounds like one of those really helpful little modules because those page loads add up. If you can kind of handle, that stuff in one load, it makes it simpler. I guess one question is, how is it using the dialogue? How is it handling the dialogues from a mobile or an accessibility standpoint? Do you know if it's just using?
Well, it's all core. So it's a very simple module. What it's doing is going into links and taking Drupal's modal API and saying, open this in a modal. And I think they all default to like 550 pixels wide. And for mobile, it's fine. What happens in mobile is it just resizes down to a reasonable screen with an X in the upper right-hand corner with submit buttons at the bottom. So and that's been, all the modals are from core, so the accessibility is there, the testing's been there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it ironically it is more of a, it doesn't reduce page load because when you click open modal, it does hit the server, get the content, and put it on the page. Yeah. But the user experience is so much cleaner. I don't know what we call that. It's not the act of the server, but the user experience is page load. Like, and the key thing with like delete's a great example is you click delete, sometimes you want to close it, and this reduces clicking the back button or anything like that. This pattern, I view, people do use this pattern occasionally, but this is bringing it fully into core for like multiple systems. Easy to uninstall too if you don't like what it's doing, or customize it, which I do.
This is actually something that's always annoyed me, is that the delete form's on a separate page because first off, there's a little bit of fear, I think, when people are first using Drupal. When you hit delete, it's like, is it just going to delete it? And like, bye, like you're done. Especially if your site tends to take a little while to respond. So this kind of like more immediate and also more modern approach, right? A lot of people are used to this kind of behavior, that it solves a problem for me. I definitely like this a lot better than what core does. I'm wondering, this is a side note, but years ago, a friend of mine, we were working with views a lot, and we were doing, when you set up a brand new site and you like have to set up all the views or something, and you're just like installing fields and doing things like config changes. He discovered that if you click the X instead of cancel, then it doesn't trigger a form action. it just closes the modal, versus if you hit cancel, then it goes through the whole like form submit action. So it's slower.
Oh,
So if you just
yeah.
hit the X, it closes the modal. But if you hit cancel, then it takes a second and then it closes. I'm wondering, since it uses core, if it does the same thing. Not that it, again, it doesn't.
It's
matter.
literally, it's a layer, which is great to say. It's like a layer that just takes a link and opens it in a modal, and whatever core is going to do or whatever the form's configured to do. Because, for example, I just want to say, like on the delete form, there's sometimes you can put a cancel link back to it, and that will it actually will reload the page to cancel. I mean, that's the X is the best way to close a dialog, and the escape button works too, which is nice accessibility. But it's just a nice layer. It's very similar to the admin toolbar where you install and it just makes your life easier.
I think it's funny because we talked about this slightly last week about something else where like modals seem to be making a comeback in Drupal. Like I remember in Drupal 7, one of the first things I always did is uninstall the overlay module. I hated it.
Yeah.
It was so painful. But now, like with this in the new in Drupal 10, I don't know if it was 10.1 or 10.0, but the new like add field or add existing field modal on content or on entities, like it's just so much nicer. And it's funny that it's kind of full circle. Now they found a way to cleanly implement it, and as long as it's accessible, I'm all for it. I'll have to check this module out. I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, I think in a lot of cases I would install it on every new site. An existing site, it's changing the UX, so you got to prepare your users for that.
Yeah,
because it's minor. It's like changing the admin theme. Suddenly people are like, what just happened? You're like, well, we're trying to make it better. But and it works very well in Gin and all the other, because all the admin themes are working well with modals at this point. Oh, and I forgot to call out this little thing. It also offers to open things in a sidebar, the black sidebar that Drupal has, the off tray. It supports the off canvas tray. It supports that too. So it's a good opportunity for people to think about it. I tend to like the modal better because it's just simpler, but it's really versatile. It's like a Swiss Army knife for controlling these modals or actions on links.
I think that I would say off canvas for me is usually when you have more stuff than just a button to click, right? You need the space or you need the screen real estate, versus a modal, which is like more like a CTA, where you're just like, here's the one action that we want you to do. But no, I like this. This is a cool, simple module that solves an irritation of mine that I've had since I first started using Drupal.
And it's the right solution. I got to say, it just works. You install it and that's it. You don't, and it's not something that should go into core. And frankly, if core was trying to track all the modals, it would get overwhelmed. And this is the right approach. Contrib should enhance core.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you, Jacob, for great module of the week, and
I appreciate
see you this weekend.
Okay. See you this weekend. Bye-bye.
Awesome.